work-life balance, and there's a lot of controversy at the moment about whether or not work-life balance is achievable or whether it's a myth. Well, the reality is that if you're in a senior role or you're aspiring to a senior role, that sort of role is going to require compromise, and it's going to require some challenges around juggling time. And that applies to men aspiring to positions as well as women aspiring to senior positions. So there are a number of ways in which women and men have worked around the whole work-life balance issue. Some of the women profiled in the book, Sideways to the Top, have specifically had those challenges because we know that women generally take more of the burden of workload when it comes to childcare and family responsibilities than men do. So what does this mean for women? Well, it means ensuring that you have an employer that recognises outcomes rather than face time in the office. And by that, I mean working for an employer who is flexible around when you arrive at work, when you leave at work. This can apply to women or men, whether they have families or whether they don't. There's one woman profiled in the book, Katie Leahy, who's currently the Managing Director of Corn Ferry, and she had to traverse between Sydney and Melbourne for a long time. Her partner was in Sydney and she was in Melbourne. And so negotiating, particularly weekends and relationships with her partner, was a very important issue for her. Many of the women in the book do have families, and so they've had to be very planned and organised when it comes to childcare arrangements, when it comes to negotiating who picks up the children, who drops them off. And a lot of them decide to leave work early, have dinner with their families, and then continue to work in the evenings. Having employers that recognise that women, and in fact more and more men, need to have that flexibility are the sort of employers that are going to appreciate and value the outcomes that individuals produce for that organisation, rather than simply being in the office. Ultimately, it's about taking charge of your career. It's not about being a slave to the way in which organisations work, but it's about enabling organisations to work for you, ensuring that you're working for an organisation that's flexible and that recognises your needs and that will value you for your outcomes. That's really what work-life balance is all about. An example is Naomi Simpson from Red Balloon. Now, Naomi started her own business. In a way, she wanted more work-life balance. In a sense, most people who set up their own businesses realise that work-life balance is just as difficult when you set up your own business as when you're working for an employer. Nevertheless, she was very organised. She ensured that there was childcare available when she was not at home, and she did work long hours, but she was very clear that when she was home for a family and for her children. And so she would be 100% for them when they were there. And that was absolutely critical. So her children knew that when Naomi was home, she was there for them. And when she was at work, then she was at work. And so that's the way that she was able to balance her work and life responsibilities.